The first light of dawn on December 1st, 1948, crept over Somerton Beach in Adelaide, Australia, casting a soft golden glow upon a scene of profound and enduring mystery. The air was still and cool, carrying the fresh, salty breath of the ocean and the distant, lonely cries of seagulls circling overhead. It was in this serene, almost sacred morning calm that a local fisherman first noticed the figure of a man reclining gracefully against the weather-worn sea wall, his form silhouetted against the rising sun. His posture was one of casual repose, his legs crossed neatly at the ankles, his head rested gently against the rough stone, as if he were merely a weary traveler stealing a moment of rest after a long journey. To any passerby he presented a picture of perfect peace, a gentleman simply enjoying the dawn's early light, utterly unremarkable in every way save for the persistent cloud of flies that buzzed around him with an unsettling frantic energy, the first silent alarm in a symphony of clues that would never be fully understood. This man, who would forever be known only as the Somerton Man, was a riddle meticulously crafted and deliberately placed upon that shore for reasons we may never comprehend. He was impeccably and expensively dressed in a smart brown suit, a crisp white shirt, and a finely knotted tie, his shoes polished to a high sheen that reflected the pale morning light. Yet upon closer inspection, the unsettling details began to emerge, each one layering upon the next to build an impenetrable wall of mystery. A preliminary search of his pockets yielded the mundane artifacts of any modern man's life: a used bus ticket from the city, a clean comb, a half-finished packet of juicy fruit chewing gum, and an unused second-class rail ticket for a journey that was never taken. But conspicuously, tragically absent was any form of identification: no wallet, no personal letters, no photographs, and most bizarrely every single label on every article of his clothing had been meticulously and skillfully removed with a sharp blade, an act of deliberate erasure that spoke of a profound desire for anonymity. The official autopsy only deepened the enigma, revealing a body in peak physical condition, a man who took obvious pride in his health and appearance, with the powerful, well-defined calves of a dancer or athlete, and hands that spoke of a life not spent in manual labor. But this external vitality masked a horrifying internal truth. His organs were saturated with blood, the classic and undeniable signature of a massive violent poisoning. Yet, the specific agent remained, and remains, a perfect mystery, a ghostly poison that left no trace, no telltale odor, no chemical signature that the science of 1948 or since could ever definitively identify. The question of suicide immediately arose, but the method was so obscure, so complex, and so utterly painless that it seemed more like the stuff of a spy thriller than a desperate act of a lonely man, leading many to lean toward the far more sinister conclusion of assassination by a hand that knew how to kill without leaving a single clue. The mystery reached its zenith of strangeness weeks later during a second, more thorough examination of his clothing, when a detective discovered a small hidden pocket expertly sewn into the waistband of his trousers, a compartment so subtle it had evaded initial scrutiny. Within this secret fold was a tiny, tightly rolled slip of paper, no larger than a postage stamp, which had been torn with precision from the final page of a book. On it were printed two words that would echo through the decades: Tamám Shud, a Persian phrase meaning ended or finished. This was not merely a clue, it was a statement, a dramatic final line ripped from the pages of Asterisk, the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam Asterisk, a collection of poems deeply concerned with fate, chance, and the acceptance of life's mysteries. This discovery transformed the case from a simple death investigation into a metaphysical puzzle, suggesting a mind with a literary bent and a theatrical flair for the dramatic. The discovery of the scrap of paper launched an unprecedented public campaign to find the book from which it had been torn, a plea that captured the imagination of the entire nation and turned every citizen into a potential detective. The breakthrough came from a man who had been utterly unaware of his role in the drama. He came forward to report that months earlier he had found a rare first edition of the Rubaiyat thrown into the back seat of his unlocked car, which had been parked near Somerton Beach on that fateful November November night. This was not just any copy, it was the very same edition confirmed by the torn section in the back that perfectly matched the scrap found on the body. This incredible twist seemed like a gift from fate, but the truth within the book's covers was even more astonishing than anyone could have predicted. There on the inside back cover of the book, the investigation found its holy grail and its eternal dead end. Faintly scrawled in pencil was a sequence of letters, grouped in unusual lines. This was the code, the Somerton Man cipher, a seemingly random jumble of characters that would consume the lives of top cryptographers from naval intelligence and police departments for years to come. Alongside this cryptic message etched into the same page was an unlisted telephone number, a tangible thread that investigators eagerly pulled, leading them to a young woman, a former ballet dancer who lived mere minutes from the sea wall, a woman whose life would become permanently intertwined with this ghostly figure. The woman, when shown a photograph of the dead man, presented a calm and collected front, steadfastly claiming she did not recognize his face and could not imagine why her number would be in the book. She admitted to having once owned a copy of the Rubaiyat, but stated she had given it to a man named Alf Boxall, an army lieutenant, who was, upon being located, alive and well and in possession of his own personally inscribed copy. The Somerton Man was not Alf Boxall. This revelation created a new, frustrating paradox. The book had found its way from her hands to the possession of a complete stranger, who then died with her unlisted number written beside a secret code. The only flicker of recognition came later, when she was shown a plaster cast of the man's face. A death mask. Witnesses reported a visible, palpable reaction, a flicker of shock or recognition that she quickly suppressed, leaving behind only a lingering doubt and a question that would never be answered. The code itself became an obsession for experts and amateurs alike, a siren's call for cryptographers during the tense early years of the Cold War. It was analyzed by the finest minds in intelligence, compared against known spy codes and complex substitution methods, but it resisted every attempt at decryption. The letters yielded no meaningful words in English or any other major language, and despite countless theories and claims over the decades, the code remains unbroken to this day, a locked door for which the key has been lost to time. This unbreakable cipher is the central, maddening pillar of the mystery, the piece of evidence that most strongly suggests the involvement of espionage, a secret message meant for eyes that never saw it, or perhaps a final grand gesture of an intellectual who took his secret to the grave. The two prevailing theories have ossified over time, each supported by compelling but ultimately inconclusive evidence. The first paints the Somerton Man as a tragic romantic, a man perhaps desperately in love with the ballet dancer who took his own life in a fit of poetic despair using a sophisticated, untraceable poison, leaving behind a dramatic and cryptic final message meant only for her. The second, and perhaps more compelling theory, casts him as a casualty of the shadowy world of Cold War espionage, a spy whose physique erased identity, undetectable poison, and complex code point toward a life and death in the silent, brutal game of intelligence gathering. His presence in Australia during a time of heightened political paranoia adds weight to this idea, suggesting he may have been involved in an operation that went terribly wrong, eliminated by his handlers with a signature poison, and left with a code that died with him. We are left now only with echoes and questions. The Somerton Man was buried in a grave marked only by the word unknown, a permanent testament to the mystery he embodied. Though his body was exhumed in 2021 and DNA was successfully extracted, the puzzle of his identity remains stubbornly unresolved, a locked box that even modern science has struggled to open. The key players, the woman, the detectives, the cryptographers, have all passed away, taking their fragments of the truth with them. All that remains is the enduring image of a well-dressed man resting against a sea wall and a sequence of letters that whispers a secret the world can no longer hear. He is a permanent resident of the shadowlands of history, a man who achieved the impossible. He vanished into thin air while lying in plain sight, leaving behind only a code and a mystery that refuses to die. The waves still crash on Somerton Beach, just as they did that morning in 1948, forever washing over the sands where he was found, as if trying to cleanse the world of a secret it was never meant to know. The case is cold, but the fascination burns hotter than ever, a testament to our innate human need to solve a puzzle, to put a name to a face, and to provide an ending to a story that refuses to have one. So we are left to ponder the questions that define this mystery. Who was he? What brought him to that beach on that final night? Was his death a choice, or was it chosen for him? The clues are all there, yet they form a circle, leading endlessly back to the same point of confusion. The lack of resolution is itself a kind of answer, a reminder that some stories are not meant to be neatly concluded, that some mysteries are destined to outlive us all, lingering in the collective imagination as a haunting and beautiful unsolved chord. What do you believe happened on Somerton Beach? Was the Somerton Man a heartbroken poet, making his final statement with a quote from a beloved book? Or was he a player in a much larger and darker game, whose loss was calculated and whose silence was ensured? The code has never been broken, but perhaps the truth lies not in the letters, but in the human story behind them. We may never know for certain, and perhaps that is the point. Some mysteries are meant to be pondered, not solved. What is your theory? The comments are open for your investigation. Share your thoughts on this enduring enigma. And if you are drawn to stories that linger in the shadows of history, subscribe to the Penance Files for daily explorations into the world's greatest unsolved mysteries. Thank you for listening.